Insomniac's love and respect for not just Spider-Man but all of Marvel in general is plain to see if you've played their newest game. Spider-Man's Manhattan is absolutely littered with cool little nods here and there, either in throwaway dialogs or in Peter Parker's old backpacks, or in incredible little Easter eggs. The most prominent way Spider-Man pays homage to Marvel's catalogue of IP, though, is by putting actual landmarks related to some of the other properties all throughout Manhattan. In this feature, we're going to talk about 15 such landmarks. Of course, keep in mind that this is no way a comprehensive list, so if we didn't mention any of the ones that stood out to you, mention them in the comments section below. Avengers Tower. Of course, we have to start with the one that, quite literally, stands out the most. The Avengers Tower towers over the Manhattan skyline, with the iconic logo proudly looking over the city. It's always in the background, and swinging over to its rooftop only to dive bomb hundreds of feet below is as incredible a feeling as you'd expect it to be. Sanctorum. Doctor Strange has been at the top of Marvel fans' lists of favourite superheroes for many years, but he's shot up in popularity astronomically over the last few years. His symbol has become instantly recognisable to a huge number of people, and it's proudly displayed on top of the New York Sanctum, Sanctorum as well. Click a photo of it and Spidey even makes a painfully obvious pun about it too. The Wakanda Embassy. Wakanda, better known as the home of Prince T'Challa, who most people know as the Black Panther, is an incredibly important location in the Marvel lore for many reasons. Spider-Man's Manhattan pays homage to it as well, with an embassy of Wakanda made available to the player, at least from the outside. Daily Bugle. Of course, the Daily Bugle is related very intrinsically with Spider-Man himself, so seeing its headquarters in New York is no surprise. It would have been a surprise if it hadn't been there, in fact. In past Spider-Man material, Peter Parker has been tied with the Bugle a great deal, while in this game, Mary Jane Watson is an upcoming Bugle reporter. Fisk Tower. Wilson Fisk is of course one of the biggest Spider-Man villains, though he's prominently featured in Daredevil stories as well, and he's also a very important character in this game. So it really doesn't come as a surprise that Fisk Tower, the headquarters of his conglomerate, is also located in the game's map, making its own contribution to New York's skyline. OSCORP Tower. Speaking of New York's skyline, one of the most visible structures in it is the OSCORP Tower, headquarters of OSCORP Industries. Of course, this is another location that has great ties with Spider-Man himself. Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn, has been a core Spidey character for ages, and he's also the head of OSCORP Industries. The Raft. The Raft, Marvel's Supermax prison that houses all the supervillains you can possibly think of, is also in Spider-Man. You can always see it off the coast of Manhattan, and though you can't swing to it while free roaming, you do visit it as part of the main story later on, which of course many of us already know thanks to Sony's E3 2018 showing of the game. FOGWELL'S Gym. Anyone who's familiar with Daredevil will also know of FOGWELL'S Gym, the place where Matt Murdock trains himself to remain at peak physical condition. And FOGWELL'S is, of course, also included in this game's version of Manhattan, making it yet another one of many Daredevil references throughout the game. Rand Corporation. The Rand Corporation, run by Matt Murdock's fellow defender, the Iron Fist, who is otherwise known as the youthful millionaire Danny Rand, is a pretty important fixture in the financial scene in New York, so it makes sense that its headquarters is included in the game as well. Damage Control HQ. Superheroes and villains leave a lot of collateral damage to property behind during their battles. And in Marvel's universe, there's a very specific organization that's tasked with dealing with just that. Damage Control, which was most recently featured in Spider-Man Homecoming as well, has its headquarters in Manhattan too. SYMKARIA Embassy. Of course, Wakanda isn't the only fictional Marvel nation that's represented in Spider-Man. SYMKARIA, the Eastern European country, also has its own embassy in the game's world. Of course, it's also more relevant to the story since Silver Sable, a vital character in the game, originally hails from SYMKARIA. Nelson and MURDOCK. Daredevil has to be one of Marvel's coolest superheroes, and also criminally overlooked by many, which is why this Easter egg in particular is extremely cool. Matt Murdock, the blind lawyer who moonlights as the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, has a law practice with his best friend and partner Foggy Nelson, and you can actually see the offices of Nelson and Murdock in Spider-Man's version of Hell's Kitchen. Fact Channel HQ. The Daily Bugle isn't the only source of news in Marvel's universe. I mean, duh. Fact Channel News is another such outlet. In the comics, it's where J.J. Jameson actually ends up after his disgraced resignation from the mayor's seat, though of course in the game he has his very own podcast. Empire State University. The Empire State University is unsurprisingly also featured in the game. Many Marvel characters have had their education in the institution, other than, of course, Peter Parker himself, the likes of Victor Von Doom or Doctor Doom, Emma Frost or the White Queen, Eddie Brock or Venom, and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, have all studied at ESU at some point in their lives. Uncle Ben's grave. The death of Ben Parker, or Uncle Ben, is the single most pivotal moment in the history of Spider-Man's character. The Spider-Man game doesn't make us relive that moment, being set 8 years after the incident, but there's obviously callbacks to it. For instance, you can actually physically visit Uncle Ben's grave in the game.
And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.